So we're holding towards the end of Siman Hey Iggeres HaKodesh. There's a joke that's said about a rabbi that someone once called him up and said, "Rabbi, I want you to come and give a speech. 45-minute speech." So the rabbi says, "Okay, what would you like me to talk about by the speech?" So he says, "Rabbi, just give us all your wisdom." So the rabbi says, "All my wisdom?
Takes the whole year.
You want me to put all my wisdom in 45 minutes? The person says, "You know, Rabbi, you're right. So just speak very slowly." Sometimes you're given 45 minutes to speak and you have like wisdom to speak like 15 minutes and you have to speak slowly. By the Eibishter we find the opposite. We find that the Eibishter has to be mitzamtzam. He has to contract all of his chachma into one letter. The letter Hey. That's what we spoke about last week. The incredible tzimtzum of contracting everything. Because we said that when a person speaks, is inside a person's speech, there's the person's conscious, there's the subconscious, everything which comes from Chachma is all there, and the Eibishter is mitzamtzam and had to contract all his wisdom into one letter. And this kaviyachol isn't easy. It's kaviyachol, something which is not easy, and why should Hashem do that? It's an incredible tzimtzum. So the Alter Rebbe says, and I want to go back and review a little what we learned last week. We're going to start on page 216, 8 lines from the bottom of the page. However, Oz, then, when Hashem originally created the world, the drawing down of Hashem's energy into the hay, of the last day of Hashem's name, was Bili Isarusa de Latata Klal. There was no awakening from above. From below. Nothing elicited that hamshacha. Nothing elicited that flow of energy. Why? Ki adam ayin lavid chulu. Because there was no person, there were no people around at that point to be able to do anything, to be able to earn it or deserve that Hashem should send and be mitzamtzim and contract his oir, the energy, all the way to bring it down into this world. So why did Hashem do it? Hashem did it because of his desire for chesed. The world was founded on, based on chesed. What is chesed? Is something that we've spoken about in the past. Someone is a nice guy, that isn't chesed. Giving is not necessarily chesed. When my boss gives me a paycheck, it's not chesed. That's din. I deserve it, I earned it. What is chesed? Chesed is when you're given something which you, which you did not earn. You're not deserving of it. You're not worthy of it. That's chesed. The world was created with chesed, and as we'll see soon, after the world was created, then Hashem said, no. Whatever you're going to get, you're going to earn. You're going to work for it. After the world was created, everything works in a reciprocal fashion. We get what we work for. When we have an awakening from below, causes an awakening from above. But when the world was created, there was no awakening from below because there was no one here. So therefore, the creation of the world was the ultimate act of chesed, unrequited kindness.
Why only Avraham Avinu called Isha Chesed, not Yitzchak, Yaakov? They all was chesed, I assume.
Everyone had chesed, but Avram was chesed.
Was above everybody.
It's not above. Each one of the midos is holy. Gevura is holy and Teferes is holy. Avram excelled in chesed. So Avram excelled in Avos Hashem. Yitzchak excelled in Gevura and Yiras Hashem. And one is not superior over the other. Definitely Yitzchak had chesed. But that wasn't his primary avodah.
What is the translation of this? Isarusa dosasa.
It's Aramaic. Isarusa literally means like his oiros, the awakening.
Right.
Dilatata from below.
From below.
So an awakening from below causes an awakening from above. But over there was no awakening from below. And that's why the pasuk says, "Bihi baram ba'Avraham." When Hashem created the world, He created ba'Avraham. Ki chesed l'Avraham chulu, because we had this chesed of Avraham. Now, why are we mentioning Avraham over here? We said olam chesed yibana. What are we adding over here by saying that it's the chesed of Avraham? Avraham had a unique chesed.
Is he personified?
Yeah, but also his chesed was unique. In which way was it unique? Chesed in general, as we mentioned, is to give to someone who isn't worthy, not deserving. However, usually when we do chesed, it's because there's a person in front of us who has a need, and we say, even though that they're not worthy and they didn't earn it, they don't deserve it, but I will do kindness because I'm seeing that there is someone here in need. Avram Avinu's chesed was even greater than that. Avram, because he was the ultimate Baal Chesed, he had a need to do chesed even in a place where there wasn't a need. And what's the example of that? When Avram Avinu, after he had his bris, so Hashem said, I'm going to make it very hot.
Sick.
Right? Yeah. So therefore he doesn't have to be matriach himself, he doesn't have to bother himself with urchim. So Avram is sitting by the door of his tent, and as Chazal say, he was being mitzvah. He was pained by the fact that he couldn't do achnasas archim. Now think about it for a second. If you're middle of the desert, you say, my house is open. If anyone needs achnasas archim, I'm here. If there's no one in need today because there's no one traveling today, so it's good. Why would I feel bad that I can't do achnasas archim? If my chesed is only about filling a need, there is no need today. It's hot, so there's no one around. No one needs my kindness, and therefore everything is good. Why is Avram bothered by this? But what's the answer? Avram was such a Baal Chesed that his chesed needed to express itself even if there wasn't a need. The fact that he was deprived on a given day of doing chesed, for Avram that was very painful. Because chesed was at its essence. He needed to do chesed. And if there's no one that's in need, it bothered him that there's no one in need, because he wanted to do chesed. The same thing is with Hashem. The chesed with which Hashem created the world, sometimes you could say, okay, Hashem, I'm sick, I'm in pain, whatever, I need chesed. And Hashem looks at you and says, you don't deserve it. Okay, I'll give you chesed. So that's chesed, but that's chesed which comes in response to a need. But when Hashem created the world, we can't say that the chesed with which Hashem created the world was in response to a need. There was no need, there was no world. So why did Hashem create the world?
Isn't that detracting from Avraham Avinu by saying that he's meeting his need? That's his need, not somebody else.
It was a holy need. It was a chesed of kedusha. What it's saying is that by Avraham Avinu, the chesed by him was essential. It was at the essence of his personality. His service of Hashem was with chesed, and if he was deprived of that ability to serve Hashem by giving chesed, it bothered him.
I understand, but at the same time, it's really saying that he's meeting his own need.
I understand that. But ultimately, we say Avram was a merkava, which means that there was no selfishness there whatsoever. So everything about him was bittul tashem, including his chesed was also bittul tashem. His way of serving Hashem was with chesed, and therefore when he couldn't do chesed, it was bothered that he couldn't serve Hashem in his unique way.
How Abraham got this midah?
That is his neshama. His neshama was derived directly from chesed of Atzilus. But the point is, when Hashem created the world, he had to employ not only chesed. Chesed on its own wouldn't have dictated creating a world, because the regular chesed only responds to a need, but there was no need because there was no world. So when Hashem created the chesed, it was bihi baram be'Avraham. It was using the chesed of Avram Avinu, that essential chesed which needs to do chesed, even if there is no need over there. They say a story about Reb Chaim of Tzanz, the Divrei Chaim. They say that in general, he was a tremendous Baal tzedakah. Not that he had a lot of money. In general, being a rabbi or a rebbe is not the most lucrative career. But what does it mean? Being a Baal tzedakah is not about how much money you give. It's something deeper than that. He never went to sleep at night with money in his house. If he had money, he gave it away to tzedakah. And they say the story that one night he's in bed and he's tossing and turning and he can't fall asleep. He says, he gets up, he says, there must be some money in my house. He got up, he did a search, he found some money, he gave it to a poor person, he went back and he fell asleep right away. Now you think about that once again, that's also an example of chesed lavram. It's not that a poor person came in and the tzanzer is losing sleep over, I need a help, no. His midas hachesed demanded of him that whatever he has to give away. And he can't sleep. If he has something, he has to give it away. So that was the Eibishter. When Hashem created the world, originally it was with Olam Chesed Yibana. The world was founded on Chesed, the Chesed Lavram. However, 5 lines in the bottom, however, after the world was created. When the world was created, Hashem gave Adam Rishon the task, put him in, it says, Hashem v'yanecheyu b'gan Eden. Right, la'avda u'l'shamra, right? Which means that Avram was put to do work. And what was the purpose of the world? Because again, earlier on we had the pasuk, Ki Adam ayin lavid, right? That originally that Hashem had to create the world because of his chesed, because there was no person yet to do an avodah. But once Adam was created, everything depends on his avodah. Azai, called isharusa de la'ela. Anytime you want an awakening from above, you want to awaken Hashem's midas chesed, we be sharusa de latata b'tzedakah the chesed she Yisrael oisim ba'ilam hazeh. We want to awaken Hashem's chesed. That is through the tzedakah and the chesed that we do in this world, and that's the rule. Ever since Hashem created the world, now it's all in our hands, and Hashem reciprocates. He just whatever we do, he follows in kind.
Baruch Hashem, there are so many kind of chesed in this world. Millions of them. Each one with his own chesed.
Right, and the abilities to do chesed are always everywhere. Doesn't have to be money. It could be with a smile. It could be with a conversation. It could be with an uplifting word. Right. The story is told about Reb Zusha of Anapoli. Reb Zusha of Anapoli, he was a student of the Mezitcher Magid. He was a very poor person. And also he had many different yisurim. Now he was a tzaddik nister, but there was a person in town, a businessman, who somehow or other he saw Reb Zusha, and he saw that his clothing was torn. He saw that he was a poor person. So one day he took a few dollars or a few rubles, and he slipped it in during davening. He slipped it into Reb Zusha's talis bag. That day he goes to work. He had his best day of work ever. Amazing. Business doing well. Before going to sleep at night, he thinks to himself, "What happened?" He remembered that he gave that tzedakah to that person. You know what? That's probably a good idea. So next day he slipped him some more money. And he started doing it on a daily basis or on a regular basis, and literally his business took off and he became quite a wealthy person. One day, he comes to shul in the morning, he wants to put some money in Reb Zusha's talis bag. Reb Zusha is not there. So he asks around, anyone knows, that poor person, where is he? So, he went to his Rebbe. His Rebbe? Yeah, he has a Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrich. Now, by this point in time, this person had already realized that Reb Zusha is a holy person. I mean, obviously he's giving him tzedakah, but then he's thinking to himself, 1 second. This guy obviously is a holy person, so that's why when I'm giving him money, I'm being blessed because of that. But he has a Rebbe. His Rebbe must be holier than him, right? Otherwise, why would he have him as a Rebbe?
Let me go there.
So let me go to Mezrich. I'll give money to the Maggid of Mezrich. And if I became wealthy just by giving money to Reb Zusha, can you imagine how wealthy I'll become if I go, right, I'm going to get a promotion, right? I'm going to go higher, move up higher, give money to his Rebbe. So he did that. He went to Mezrich, and he gave a nice sum of money to Reb Zusha, to the Maggid, and he comes home, and slowly but surely his business starts failing and failing. And eventually he's back to square one. He wasn't necessarily a poor person, but all his gains had been lost. He went running back to the Mezrich, and he says, I don't understand this. Explain this to me. Maybe you're just a phony, a fraud. Because when I gave money to your Talmud, to Reb Zusha, I became wealthy, and I'm giving you. and suddenly I'm losing my money. So the Maggid says you have to understand. Everything that you do causes a reaction from above. You saw a poor person in shul, you gave him money, Hashem says, wow, take a look at that. And he blessed you, benched you. Then you decided to be smarter. You decided to be picky about who you're giving your money to. You're going to give it to the more worthy recipient. Because you decided that I'm holier and better, so I deserve the money more. So you started giving me the money. So as we know, everything that you do down here causes the exact reaction above. So above they said, hey, take a look at him. He's giving tzedakah, but he's being discriminated about who's giving tzedakah to. He's giving it only to the most worthy recipient. Okay, we'll do the same thing. And suddenly they started looking around. They realized, you're not the most worthy recipient of Hashem's blessings either. So they gave it to someone else. As long as you're giving tzedakah without cheshbonos, without calculation. So Hashem wasn't making any calculations. He was just giving back to you the money and giving you with additions. You were giving without calculation. Hashem was giving without calculation. The moment that you started already with your calculations, Hashem says, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Right? Which is another reason, which is brought down also elsewhere in Iggeres HaKodesh. The Rebbe says, don't be too careful about giving tzedakah, because then when you're going to ask Hashem for tzedakah, he's going to be careful about it also. In other words, when you start thinking, do I have to give? Should I give? Hapi halacha, is the person worthy of it? Then we cause that Hashem reacts in the exact same way. So we have to give tzedakah more freely, and this way Hashem does the same back to us. But Al Kapanim, what he's saying over here is that once the world was created, so the flow of energy, which originally, when Hashem created the world, again, the tzimtzum of the oir into the letter Hey, that happened with the Yisharusa de La'elam, with the awakening from above, which was unelicited. We did not elicit it from below. Once the world was created, suddenly it becomes to our avodah. We have to give tzedakah and chesed. Lachein Amr Razal, and therefore our sages tell us, Kol ha'omer ein li ela Torah. The Gemara says in Yevamis, if someone says, I only have Torah, bli gemilas chasadim, but the person forgets it, he doesn't do gemilas chasadim. Ki afilu Torah ein li.
Wow.
Afilu Torah ein li. He doesn't have, even Torah he doesn't have. Ella, rather, lasik v'Torah b'gemilas chasadim, rather, you have to learn Torah and do gemilas chasadim. So it's hard to understand. What does that mean? Someone says, "Ein li ela Torah." I'm Torah. I don't do gemilas chasadim. So Chazal say, "Afilu Torah ein li." Why afilu Torah ein li? Why? Okay, he doesn't have gemilas chasadim, but why doesn't he have the Torah that he learned?
Work together.
What do you know works together?
They're not related to you.
They're different. It's different things. One, Torah is important. Gemilas chasadim is important. If you learn Torah, without gemilas chasadim, okay, are you deficient? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, why don't you have the Torah that you learned? So the Rebbe explains, even though that the Torah comes from Hashem's Chachma, and through learning Torah, the world is sustained. And the world stands on the shoulders of those people who exhaust themselves in the study of Torah. That's what the Zohar tells us. Because through their studying Torah and articulating words of Torah, they bring down the light of Hashem. Chachma ilah, they bring down the light which is in Hashem's Chachma, Makar HaTorah, the source of Torah. They bring it down into the words with which Hashem creates the world. Chazal tell us, Chazal tell us, the pasuk says, "V'chol banayich lemudei Hashem, v'rav shloim banayich," right? Which means that v'chol banayich lemudei Hashem, that all the Yidden are lemudei Hashem, they're talmidei chachamim, v'rav shloim banayich, and much is the peace of banayich, your children. So Chazal tell us, al tikri banayich al banayich, talmidei chachamim, those who are lemudei Hashem. Don't say only that they are the sons of Hashem, but they are Boinoyach, they're the ones who build the world. Let's do this. I want to explain a little outside what we're saying, and then we'll do it inside. The larger question that Alter Rebbe is trying to address over here is that The theory over here is, the idea that the Rebbe is telling us, is that by giving tzedakah we sustain the world. Because the world is sustained, the world is created by the oyer of Hashem, the light of Hashem, which derives from Hashem's chachma, coming down and being nisamsem and contracting itself all the way until it enters Hashem's dibur, which is the hey of Hashem's name. And that simtsum doesn't happen automatically. It happened on its own automatically when the world was created. But once the world is created, it doesn't happen automatically. It requires us to evoke it, to elicit that drawing down of the energy. And how do we do it? Through tzedakah. So the world is sustained through tzedakah. But don't we know the world is sustained through limud HaTorah? Or as the Zohar says over here, right? That through learning Torah, the world stands literally sustained by people who learn Torah. Not only people who learn Torah, but as he says, people who exhaust themselves in the study of Torah. And that's why Talmidei Chacham are called Boinoich. They're called the builders of the world. So why do you need to have tzedakah if the world stands on Torah? The Rebbe says, when you learn Torah, what are you doing? Torah is Hashem's chachma. And when you're expressing Hashem's chachma using your words, what you're doing is, as remember, because we mentioned everything causes a reciprocal, is you're causing the chachma of Hashem, the light of Hashem's chachma to enter the dibur, Hashem's dibur above. However, as we learned in this Perek, in the earlier parts of this Perek, the higher worlds are also created with Hashem's dibur. All of the worlds are created with Hashem dibur. But for Hashem to come down all the way into this world, into the last hay, that's a much bigger tzimtzum, that's a much bigger contraction. Learning Torah doesn't accomplish that. So the original flow, the turning on of the faucet of the energy from the Chachma, is through Limud Torah. Tzedakah alone doesn't get the flow going. The flow is started through Limud Torah. Because when you're learning Torah, you're bringing down Chachma into Dibur. So that's what we're causing above also. We're causing Hashem's Chachma to be Mislabish and Dibur. But to push down, to give the last push in the shav, so that it enters all the way in our world, for that we need chesed. For that we need tzedakah. That we need a special chesed for it to come down. So now we understand why you need both Torah and Gemilas Chasadim. So, someone who says, I'm keeping the world alive through learning Torah. No, I feel Torah ain't life. If you don't do Gemilas Chasadim also, then your Torah stays stuck in the higher worlds. The energy which you're drawing down through Torah stays stuck in the higher worlds, and it isn't pushed down all the way into this world. And that's why you have to have Torah and Gemilas Chasadim. Torah to start the flow, and Gemilas Chasadim to push it down all the way to this world. Harei hamshacha zu. 5 lines from the top. Page Kuftes. Harei hamshacha zu bechinas yirida gedola. At the end of the day, to bring down, to be mamshech Hashem's chachma into our world, all the way into Eilam HaZagashmi, is a tremendous yirida. As mentioned, right? It's like the yirida of a chacham gadol, a tremendous chacham, who is able to contract all of his chachma into a single letter. Ulazeh. And for this yirida, sarach lo eirer chesed al yim. For this we need chesed, Hashem's chesed. Hanimshach kamayim. We know that chesed is compared to water. Water is always flowing downwards. And how do we cause that Hashem's chesed, which pushes the flow from Chachma all the way down to our world, through an awakening from below, through the tzedakah and the chesed down here, when we give life and kindness, to revive and to give life to the spirits of those people who are lowly and the people who are crushed. And this is why the Pasuk also says, let not the wise person be proud of, boast of his wisdom. Rather, what is there to be proud of? Yeah. Hashem says that I am the one who does chesed. In other words, someone with all the chacham and all the Torah, don't be so proud of it. At the end of the day, Ani Hashem Oisa Chesed. At the end of the day, in order for the energy to come down to this world, it's through Hashem's Chesed. And that's why it's not enough to have Yisal Chacham b'Chachmasei. It's not enough to have Chachma v'im lav. And if there is no Chesed, Harinekras Chachmasei levadei. So that only it's al Yisal Chacham b'Chachmasei. It remains Hashem's Chachma. B'li hamshachas chayim imena chas shalom. But there is no life that flows from it because it is not accompanied by Chesed. With this, we understand that which the Arizal says. There are two types of neshamas amongst Yidden. The neshamas Talmidei Chachamim. There's the neshamas of Talmidei Chachamim who study Torah all their life. The neshamas Bali Mitzvahs, the neshamas of people who do mitzvahs. Their main avodah is tzedakah gemilas chasadim. So this is very interesting. We think, we know there's certain people who they learn Torah, and there's certain people who and that's their primary thing. There's certain people who do mitzvahs, and that's their primary thing, and they give tzedakah. But I think that the most of us are yes, Yisachar is Zvulun, but for most of us, the perception is that we come down to this world, and when we come bar mitzvah, we make our choice. Am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? And either option is fine, right? Yisachar is good. Zvulun is also good, right? Zvulun even comes before Yisachar. Tzedakah is very important, and you make your choice. And maybe when you make your choice, it's based on your talents. Maybe if you're a smarter person, you decide to become a big Rav. And maybe if you have better business acumen, so maybe you decide to... No, the Rebbe says from the Arizal, it's not the way. He says, Yesh beis minei neshamas b'Yisrael. There are two types of neshamas. The neshama of the Talmid Chacham is a different neshama than the neshama of the Bali Mitzvah. It's a separate type of neshama. And when it comes down over here, certain neshamas, their tafkid, their tachlis in life is to learn Torah. And there's certain people that their tachlis in life is to do mitzvahs. That's their avodas Hashem, is to do mitzvahs and to make a lot of money and to give a lot of tzedakah. And this is an important thing to understand, that in general, we're all unique. We all have unique mission in life. And the mission and our mission in life is dictated by the type of neshama that we have. Yes?
So how come it says tzedakah tatzil mimavet, it doesn't say Torah tatzil mimavet? So tzedakah is a little bit higher if you learn Torah.
And Talmud Torah connected kulam.
That's true.
Okay.
But
So,
tzedakah tatzil mimavet, it's only sentence in the...
Torah gives life.
the bottom line is, you have like this and you have like that, and as they say in Yiddish, and well, you're saying you want to know why it says dafka tzedakah tatzil mavis. That's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I'm sure there's something special about tzedakah, which therefore it's matzil mavis, and which is taken not in Torah. But Torah has other schools. It doesn't mean tzedakah is greater. It means in that aspect it has that skula to it. They're both great. They're both important. They're both as we had in last week's Pirkei Avos, right? They're both on the three things. Aleim o'ilam oim, the world stands upon both of them. And as we see over here, literally how these two work together, and the existence of the world is to Torah together with Gemilas Chasad. So some people learn Torah, and that's their job. Some people learn, there's a famous story the Frierdiker Rebbe says, I might have mentioned it here before, that there was once a wealthy person, and he was traveling on business. And he had with him he was traveling in a wagon, so he had with him a hired balagala, a hired wagon driver, who was taking him where he needed to go. Shabbos, Friday afternoon, they arrive in a village. They're stopping for Shabbos. So the wealthy person finds the Waldorf Astoria in the village, or maybe the 5-star Airbnb, the most expensive accommodations he can find. And he said, he rents out a room. The balagala, who's not a person of means, goes and finds the local hostel over there, or rents out a basement room. And they're both going to prepare for Shabbos. An hour before Shabbos, they both head off to shul. Not mamish together, a few minutes apart from each other, and they didn't go the same way apparently. The balagala, the rich person on the way to shul, what does he see? He sees that there's a horse and wagon stuck in the mud. Horse and the wagon stuck in the mud. There's a mitzvah over here. What is the mitzvah? Azev Tazevim, to try to help. Wonderful. So he goes And he says to the wagon driver, not his wagon driver, it's another person, says, let me help you out over here. And he starts schlepping. Now this wealthy person has never schlepped anything in his life before. He has no idea how a wagon works. He has no idea what mud is. And he doesn't manage to accomplish anything instructive. He schleps a little this way, a little this way. The Vile of the wagon gets a little more stuck in the mud. The Vile, he gets full of mud. And he doesn't accomplish anything, but after 45 minutes of schlepping, he says, it's Shabbos, he runs off the shul and wipes off his clothing and runs off the shul. Meanwhile, the Baal Agala had already arrived in shul. He comes to shul and he walks in, he sees there are a few people there, there are poor people there. Beggars. Big mitzvah achnasas archem. So he asked them, where are you eating tonight? We didn't have work yet. Why didn't you come and join me? Okay. So he invites over, 7, 8 beggars to come have a Suda Shabbos with him. After Friday night meal, the wealthy person is about to go back to his place, and he has Kanai Nahara, a spread of food over there because he took care of himself, and he wants to invite a few archem. And surprisingly, whoever he asks, everyone tells him,
we are taking.
They're taken. They all go back to the Baal Agala, where every one of them gets a half a piece of challah and a little piece of herring. That's their Suda Shabbos, because that's what the Baal Agala can afford. After 120 years, both of these people, the Baal Agala and the wealthy person, they go to heaven. And they say over there, these are neshamas hatois. These are messed up neshamas. The Baal Agala, yes, Aziv Tazivima is a mitzvah, and yes, Achnas Zarchim is a mitzvah, but everyone has to know, what's my mitzvah? The wealthy person, when he saw the wagon driver, he was supposed to go and call the Baal Agala. That's your mitzvah. He knows how to schlep a wagon out of the mud. The Baal Agala should have referred these people to the wealthy person, and therefore they both have to come down. Begilgul again. Both of the neshamas have to come down to fix up that switch.
Wow.
And that's an important thing we have to know. I remember I was fabraking a little while ago a person, a young man from Karnais, and he tells me he's Kanai, he's comfortable, financially speaking, he's comfortable. He says, I lack a drive and to really grow my business more and build my business more because I have what I need. What should I do? I think I should start learning maybe some more Torah, because my business doesn't interest me too much anymore. So I tell this person, I say, so you're going to become a Rav? You're going to become a big Talmid Chacham? He laughed. He's not, a Pashta person. I'm like, it's a great thing to learn some more Torah. I'm not discouraging from that Chas v'Shalom, v'Adar Rabbe. But what's your mission in life? What were you put down over here? You're neshamas, you're from the Bali mitzvahs. Your job is to make a lot of money and to give a lot of tzedakah. And beferish to work another 3 hours a day and to make more money to give more tzedakah. That's your avodas Hashem. Don't be a neshama satoyis. You have to know what your neshama is and what you're shaykh to, and that's your avodas Hashem. And in terms of avodas Hashem, there are 2 types. Again, those people who serve the Eibishter, who they're primarily through limdat Torah, and there's those people who beferish their avodah is giving tzedakah. Eitz chaim yil machzikim ba v'semcha ma'ushar, right? V'semcha, the tamchei deraisa, the people who support Torah ma'ushar. And that's not any less of a service of the Eibishter, if that's what you put down over here for that. So there are 2 different, and there's 2 different types of neshamas, and each one has their own avodah.
Tomchei, the meusha, the tomchim, the rich, meusha, osher.
Right.
The more rich than
it's mu'ushers with an aleph, but yeah. So the Arizal again says that we have 2 different types of neshamas. The neshamas of Talmidei Chachamim and the neshamas of the people who are Esek and B'tzedakah. So l'chayra gam Talmidei Chachamim shrichim lasik b'gemach. What does that mean? A Talmid Chacham doesn't have to give tzedakah. Talmid Chacham also has to do gemilas chasadim. Kimaimer Azal, as we mentioned earlier, Shafilu Torah ein loy, that someone who says ein li ela Torah, I only have Torah, Shafilu Torah ein loy. Talmid Chacham also has to do gemilas chasadim. Just because you're a big Talmid Chacham doesn't mean you don't have to give tzedakah, and more importantly, it doesn't mean you don't have to do chesed. And by the way, chesed could be taka learning with another yid, but chesed, everyone has to do chesed. Ella, so what does it mean? He says no. Of course the Talmid Chacham has to do chesed. Ella, Talmidei Chachamim, those Talmidei Chachamim, Shatirasan Ikar, that there whose main avodah is limud haTorah. V'reiv yimehem ba, and most of their life is devoted to learning Torah. U'miut yimehem b'gemilas chasadim. They devote only a minority of their life to gemilas chasadim. Hine pu'ulas isarusam delatata. Their pu'ula, they talk and make isarus delatata, an awakening from below. But what is the pu'ula? What is the effect of their isarus delatata? La'oyer chesed elyon is to awaken Hashem's chesed, lahamshich u'la'oyer, to bring down, to draw down and bring down oyer in soif, hamelubash b'chochma ilah, to bring down the oyer in soif, which is in the chochma vatzilus, makir teiras Hashem shebefiyem, chochma ilah, which is the makir of Hashem's Torah, which is in their mouths. But where do they bring it down? Hurak la'elam hanishames shebebriya. They bring down the energy of Hashem, which comes from Chachma Ilah, only to the world of Neshamis, which is in Bria, Aide Esek HaTalmud, through learning Gemara. Well, Malachim Shebi Yitzira, Aide Limud HaMishnah, it's the Malachim of Yitzira through learning Mishnayos. So this is something that we discussed earlier on in Likutei Amarim, in Perek Lametes, that in Perek Lametes and in Perek Mem, that the Talmud is an Olam Habriya. Talmud is all the Torah comes from Hashem's Chachma. But when you learn the Gemara is Hashem's Chachma as it comes down into the world of Bria, which is why the Gemara is, the world of Bina, of Bria is associated with Bina. So that's why Gemara, which involves a tremendous amount of Binas in the world of Bria. And the Mishnah is Hashem's Chachma as it comes all the way down into the world of Yitzira. Because the Mishnah Yitzira is the world of Hashem's Midas, the 6 Midas. There are 6 Siddharim of the Mishnah. And the Mishnah, which is more about Chayiv, Potter, Zakai, Chayiv, comes from the Midas, Chesed, Gevura. So Talmidei Chachamim, when they learn Torah, when they learn Gemara, when they learn Mishnah, they're bringing down the light of Hashem. Taka, their Yisrus D'Latata is effective and it brings down the light of Hashem all the way to the world of Bria, or all the way to the world of Yitzira. They're learning Torah and they're tzedakah together. Yan heyis chayis hanashamas v'malachim, because the energy of the neshamas in the world of Bria and the malachim in the world of Yitzira and Nishpois, Mitzurufi, Eitzius, Adibur, they come from the combinations of the letters of Hashem, He Torah Shebal Peh, which is the Torah Shebal Peh, U'makar Eitzius U'mechachma Ilah Kenal, is from Chachma as mentioned earlier. However, laham shechulahidid ha'ara v'chayis. If you want to bring down and draw down the chayis of Hashem, b'chinas hevel ha'elyin heitata, you want to bring down the breath of Hashem, of Malchus Datzilus, lo'olam ha'aza ha'shafel. You want to bring down to this lowly world. Shehu tzimtzum gadol b'yeser az. You can't compare the tzimtzum of the oir in order for it to come down here. At the end of the day, Bria, Yitzira, that's Gan Eden Elyon, Gan Eden Tachten. So Talmidei Chachamim, they learn Torah, so they're drawing from Hashem's Chachma. The little tzedakah that they give draws down the Torah a little. It draws it down to the world of Bria, the world of Yitzira. You want to get down the Eir of Hashem down here into this world, to sustain this world. Not enough. It's not enough. The Serusa del Tata of the Talmidei Chachamim, who only a minority of the days, a small part of their days, is involved in Staka Gemilas Chasadim. Ella, for that, to push down the light all the way down here to this world, is like the Serusa. That's through the awakening, the Bali mitzvahs of those people who are involved in mitzvahs, who most of their lives they're doing tzedakah Gemilas Chasadim, and therefore their heavy investment in Gemilas Chasadim causes that reciprocation from above, and we bring down the air all the way down here into this world. That's explained in Likutei Amarim in the first part in Chedek Lamed Aleph.
But you need both first.
Page 218. What?
But you need both though. One without the other wouldn't work.
You need both. But the flow is started and originated by the Talmidei Chachamim. And with their little tzedakah that they give also, they bring down the oir to the world of Bria and the world of Yitzira. But to get the oir down here, it's people who are busy giving tzedakah their entire life. Reiv Yemehem. Yeah, they also learn Torah. By the way, just like a The Talmidei Chachamim have to give tzedakah. The Baal Mitzvahs also have to learn Torah. But most of their life, they're involved in tzedakah and gemach. And here the Alter Rebbe adds, as we explained on the Kuti Amarim, in Chelek Aleph Perek Lamed Daled. What does the Alter Rebbe explain over there? Over there in Perek Lamed Daled, the Alter Rebbe says, if you want to turn there, you can turn there. It's on page 86. If you look 7 lines from the top, on page 86. The Rebbe says, "V'gam shar hayim kuli she'esik b'matzon maton." Also, the rest of the day. In other words, you learn Torah a little. But besides the Torah that you learn, the rest of the day, when you're involved in business, yemachin l'shifta yisbarach. The rest of the day also is a machin l'shifta, is a place for a home for Hashem's dwelling. B'nisina tzedakah, when you give tzedakah, sheyitin mi'igiyah, which you give from your harvanya, from your hard work. I want to skip 2 lines. You're only giving a choimish that's tzedakah. What do you mean you're elevating everything? You're only giving a fifth, 20% in tzedakah. You think you're giving 20%? No. When you give 20% to tzedakah, that elevates the whole 100%. Meaning, when you go to work, why are you going to work? Your whole work is about tzedakah. The reason why I'm working is to be able to give 20% to tzedakah. And if you're wealthy, you can give more also. So, if your mindset when you wake up in the morning is, I'm going to work in order to be able to give 20% to tzedakah, then your whole day is tzedakah. It's not only that you worked, and then after you finish, you say, okay, 20% I'm giving to tzedakah, and maybe 20% of my time then is also, tzedakah time. No, the whole thing. It's ma'ili imay kol ha'arba yodis. The 80%, in other words, the 4/5 also gets elevated to Hashem. So therefore you have some people who, their primary avodah, most of the time they're learning Torah. And again, by doing that, they're bringing down the light and energy of Hashem into the higher worlds. But the final push to get the light into this world is the people who they're doing tzedakah and milas chasadim, reiv yameim most of their life, because everything they do is about tzedakah and milas chasadim. Even their work is also about tzedakah and milas chasadim. And that's why people who give tzedakah are called tamchei iraisa. What does tamchei iraisa mean?
I think.
Sorry? The support, tamche, support.
Support, right. But when you say support in English, support is usually financial. But the word tamche in Hebrew, it's more of like a physical, like the foundation, like a physical support.
The foundation, yeah.
And in our body, what are the tamche? What are the tamche in the body? The tamche in the body is are the feet. The feet are the tamchin of the body. So Talmidei Chachamim are called the tamchin, the feet. Why would they be called the feet? So, in general, in the structure of the spheres, so we know that the spheres are structured like a human body. We say B'Tselem, it's the other way around. The human body is structured after the spheres. B'Tselem Elokim, right? Also Elokim es Adam. We were created. So therefore, we know, and as we say in Tikkun Yisrael, in the Pasach Eliyah, we say on Friday, Chesed Rei Yamina, Gvura Rei Yismala. Chesed is the right arm, and Gvura is the left arm. Tefera is Gufa, Tefera is the torso. And then Netzach V'Hoid, what did we say over there? In Pasach Eliyah? Train shaken, right, the 2 legs. So Netzach V'Hoid had 2 legs. So the people who give tzedakah are called Tamchei Deraisa. Why? Because they are Netzach and Hoid. What is the meaning of Netzach and Hoid? So this is something that we'll learn about more at length. Mir Hashem, when we get to Siman Tes Vav and Iggeres HaKodesh, the Rebbe there dissects each one of the midos and the spheres. But Netzach v'Hoid, on the one hand, they're known as the unemotional emotions. You have Chesed. We have in general. You have in the spheres are divided into 3. You have Chabad, which is the Moichin, Chachma Bina Das, which is the intellect. Then you have the next is Chagas, Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, which are the emotional emotions. And then you have Nihi, Netzach, Hoid, and Yisoid, and they are the unemotional emotions. What is an unemotional emotion? What does that mean? Netzach means perseverance. The legs are an extension of the arms. You have chesed, which is kindness. We all know very often we want to be kind. And we have a feeling of kindness even. But then the task at hand to express the kindness is just too hard. And we don't persevere. We don't have the netzach. I love my kid. I want to teach him to play the piano. I really want to. I have that feeling within me. But going and teaching my kid, Dola, whatever, Ray.
Do, mi, sol.
I thought, but then I realized it's going to take me 100 hours to do it. And he's not even so interested. So I lack the netzach. Next week is the week of netzach, right? I lack the netzach. Netzach means to push through. The feet, and also hoid. The netzach v'hoid, they are, the netzach is what pushes through chesed, and hoid is what pushes through gevura. The same thing, sometimes you have a feeling of gevura, and that demands certain action or certain behavior. You know, I want to teach my kid, another example, I want to teach my kid to be a big Talmid Chacham. I want him to be a big goyin. But I don't have patience to sit down north of Aleph base. It requires netzach. So that's why they're called the unemotional emotions. Because they're the vehicles of the emotions, but they're the action element. They're the ones that's the feeling that you have, which is I have to persevere, I have to go through with it, even if I lost the feeling, I lost the geschmack, I lost the energy, that you keep on going, you continue. That's netzach v'hoid. So those who give tzedakah, they're called tamchei deraisa, which is netzach v'hoid. And why is that? Because that's exactly what happens with Hashem. The Talmidei Chachamim, they learn Torah and they draw down Hashem's chesed. But that chesed makes its way into the world of Bria, makes its way, the chachma and the chesed, into the world of Yitzhira, and then it fizzles out. It doesn't have the energy to persevere all the way and come down into this world. Who are the tamchei deraisa? Who are the netzach v'hoid? Who force the energy until it comes down all the way, ma'asim b'poel netzach, all the way down to this world? That is the people who give tzedakah, the people who are bali tzedakah. So do this in cycle. And that's why they're called the supporters of Torah, of Hein Bechinas and Madrigas Netzach v'Hoid. That's the levels of Netzach and Hoid. L'yoshen mamshichim Eir HaTorah Lamata, because they're the ones who bring down the Eir of Torah Lamata, L'Olam HaSiyah, into this world. Stam very quickly. This paradigm that we've talked about today, which is that when the world was created originally, so it was Olam Chesed Yibana. And then afterwards, but that was a one-time shot, it was a one-shot thing, a one-time thing. And afterwards, if you want to be mamshich, want to bring down the oir, the chayis of Hashem down here, it takes our avodah. So this plays itself out in many different ways, in many different places, in many different ways, which is that it always begins, everything always begins with a hisayrus from above. But that's a one-time thing. And after the hisayrus from above, it requires our avodah to keep the system going. And right now, we're middle of that. Because that's the exact same thing what happened in the beginning, the inception of our nation. The Yidden were in Mitzrayim, and we were shakua, we were sunk in the Memtes Shari Tumah. And what does Hashem come and say? He says, okay, that's fine. Isarusa Delela, here I come. A total awakening from above. We didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve anything. It's chesed, and that's why the Yom Tov Pesach corresponds to Avram Avinu. Right? The three regalim. Avram is Pesach, and Yitzchak is Shavuos. Why is Pesach? Because in Pesach, once again, we had Hashem, the Bihi Baram. We had Hashem acting like Avram. A chesed which was completely uncalled for. As we say in the Agada, Va'at Eirim Ve'erya, we were completely bare and naked of any mitzvahs. But Hashem swooped down, and in a way of Olam Chesed Yibana, an act of Chesed, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. And once Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, what does Hashem say? He said, okay, I did that, but
now you're on your own.
Now you're on your own. You want to get to Torah? Do your work. I want to have Yisirusa Dilatata, an awakening from below. And that's what the Yidden, they embarked on a 7-week journey of Sfiras HaOmer and self-refinement, and of polishing themselves. We know that the word Sfira also comes from the word shining, like an Evan Sapir. And the Yidden, they had to take their 7 midas, they had to take their, and shine them individually, and as they are, as they contain each other. And when they finish this process, at the end of the Sfiras HaOmer, that's when they received the Torah. So over there also you had this dynamic playing, this idea of Hashem making the first move, just like when Hashem created the world. But once Hashem makes the first move, He says, okay, now I put you on the path. Now I put you B'Gan Eden La'avda L'Shamra. Now it's your job, and when you finish your job, then we can talk weiter about Kabbalah Satira. Right. Yuvan, 4 lines from the top. Yuvan. With this we'll understand Lama Nikra Hatzdaka B'Shem Maisa. Now we understand why Tzedakah is called Maisa. Kamishakosov, as the pasuk says in Yeshaya, V'hoye Masa Hatzdaka Shalom. That the Masa Hatzdaka causes Shalom. L'chera, the pasuk could have said V'hoye Hatzdaka Shalom. Right? What's V'hoye Masa Hatzdaka Shalom? Al Shem, but why is tzedakah called Maisa? Al Shem Shepulasa. What is the Pula? What is the effect of tzedakah? Lahamshech Eir Hashem Lo'ilam Asiyah, to bring down the Eir of Hashem to our world, all the way down here to the world of Asiyah. That's why it's Maisa tzedakah, because it's the word of tzedakah. And now we can go back finally to the beginning of the letter, which we started a while ago. The letter, remember, begins with the words Vayas David Shem. Remember that.
Let's come to the name.
David made a name. What does it mean? So again, Pashup Pshat, he made up a name or reputation for himself. But in the Zohar it says, the Bachar Rabbi Shimon Va'amar, that Rabbi Shimon cried and he said, Man Ovid Shema Kadisha, who is the one who makes Hashem's name? B'chol Yoiman, every day. Man the Yoiv Tzedakah L'miskini, the one who gives tzedakah to the poor person. Now we understand this perfect. What does it mean, Man the Ovid Shema Kadisha? Who's the one who makes the name of Hashem? What is the name of Hashem? Yud Kei Vav Kei. If you don't do tzedakah, you have the Yud, the Hey, and the Vav. You have the Yud, which is Hashem's Chachma. If you learn Torah, you'll draw down Hashem's Chachma into the higher Hey, which is Olam Habriya. You'll draw it down into the Vav, which is Olam HaYitzira. But you don't have the full name. Man Ovid Shema Kadisha, who is the one who makes the name of Hashem and makes it complete, is the one who gives tzedakah every day. Dafke, the one who gives tzedakah every day, he's the one who pushes down the Oir of Chachma from the Yud all the way into the Hey, causing the completeness of Hashem's name. So it appears to be a mysterious Zohar, which says that through doing tzedakah, we make Hashem's name. Once we learn this whole simon, it makes a lot of sense. We understand how Hashem's name is made complete. Taka through giving tzedakah. That's how you push the light from the Yud all the way down into the final Hey. And Alter Rebbe takes note of the fact that Reb Shimon said, Man Ovid Shema Kadisha. What does the word Ovid mean? Ovid is like the word Asiyah, the one who makes, right? Ovid. Who is the one who gets the Shema Kadisha, Hashem's name, into Ovid, into the world of Asiyah? Inside. V'zeu diktu gloshen Zohar HaKodesh, and this is what the Zohar says, Man de Ovid Shema Kadisha. The Ovid Daika. Ki b'serusa de latata, because the serusa de latata, the tzedakah, the chesed hata, the tzedakah and the chesed which we do on here, me'erir chesed elyin, we awaken Hashem's chesed above, lahamshech eirin sof, and we draw down the eirin sof, bebechinis chachmi ilah, from the level of chachmi ilah, which is yud shal shem, the yud of Hashem's name, all the way lahei shal shem, all the way down to the final hey. Bechinas adibur, the Hey, which is Hashem's dibur, v'ruach piv yisbarach, kedei lashpia lo'elam asiyah, in order to bring down to Elam asiyah. V'alderech l'mashal lahavdil, by way of example, lahavdil avdalah sin kates, kamoisha adam ini medaber lachenu, a person speaks only to others. V'loik shubeinu l'bein atzmei, people don't talk to themselves. For the most part, sane people don't engage in talking to themselves too much.
Today you see a lot of people talking to themselves.
Okay. You think they're talking to themselves, but really they have a earbud and they're on the phone.
I mean, on the phone.
Yeah. So when a person is talking to someone else, then you contract your seichel and your machshava v'diburi aleim when you talk to them. So speech is necessary when you're talking to someone else. The speech of Hashem's name is necessary when He's talking to someone else, meaning us in the Olam Hazeh. And who is the one, right? And who is the one talking to, creating, relating to? And who is the one who causes that? That is caused through tzedakah. And this is also interesting. This relates to, as we know, always Daf 11 mit the Zeit, this week's parsha. So this week's parsha begins with the words Isha ki sazriya v'yolda zachar. So Chassidus explained. Interesting. It says like this. We know that Ish v'Isha, that the man and the woman, that is Hashem and Knesset Yisrael. Hashem is the husband, right? As the pasuk says, Ki the Rechaim actually brings down this week's parsha, Ki bayalayich esayich. That Hashem is the one, our Baal is our husband. So, Isha ki sazriya, when we are the ones who are mazriya first, Isha, Klal Yisrael, when in our relationships, the first one, when we show up first, with our desire and our cheshek, so then what happens, the v'yolda, the avodah that results from that, is zachar. If, however, on the other hand, Isha ki sazriya, on the other hand, if Ish mazriya tchila, if it starts with the Shirusa de Leila, it starts with Hashem, then you let this nekeva, then a nekeva is more. What is the significance of the difference between a zachar and a nekeva, a man and a woman? So men are strong. They're strong, they're rigid. Women, on the other hand, they're softer and they're more flexible. And they're more subject to change because of that. As you know, in general, men are more like a flat line, and women, they're more ups and downs. So a zachar represents a very stable avodah, whereas a nekeva represents an avodah which fluctuates. So ish shamazriat chilo, when we're the ones who do the work first. So v'yalda zachar, what is born? The avodah that comes from that is zachar. It's a very, very, very strong and powerful and straight avodah. As opposed to if Hashem is the one who starts the process, then what we have is an akeva, the avodah fluctuates. It's not as firm, it's not as strong, it's not as durable as when we start the avodah. So this is the maila, the advantage of Yiserusa de Latata, the advantage of when we start the work, because when we're the ones who are doing the work, then we're the ones who are a keli for the avodah afterwards. We really worked on it and made ourselves into a keli for it, and that's then the avodah produces a zachar. Interestingly, however, the Alter Rebbe says in a Maimer, he brings on the pasuk L'tzinya Amar Ish ve'ish Yulad Boy. What does that mean? That when Mashiach comes, L'tzinya Amar, the Tzion they will say Ish. That here we had Ish Mazriat Chila and ve'ish Yulad Boy, and what was born was a zachar.
Zachar Ish. Yeah.
Ish, even though the Ish was Mazriat Chila. So when Mashiach comes, we're going to be able to have that, even though it's Serusa de La'ela, even though that the Eibishter will do the Serusa de La'ela, nevertheless, the result of that will be Avas Hashem and Avodah, which will be absolutely stable, and that is the Maila, what we're looking for, La'asad Laveh. Have a good Shabbos, everyone, and Mir Hashem next week we will start with Siman Vav.